Legacy, written by Possible Letters 42. The item was found on the floor of a room lost to time. It was covered in the dust of centuries, easily disturbed, yet with a unique weight. It was but one of many hundred artifacts retrieved from a silent tomb. A simple, smooth-edged rectangle. It measured 10 by 8 inches. Not that anyone knew what those were anymore. It rested on a table that had ever shared the space with it. Silent, together. 2 forlorn sentries, dissimilar in shape, yet alike in abandonment. Finally, after lifetimes in the silent dark, an opening door disturbed the sterility. A creak of hinges, rays of light entering almost hesitantly, and a rush of air, clambering in with none of the light's reticence. Voices of calm, measured competence, quiet respect, and scientific curiosity. A 7-fingered hand lifted the rectangle from the table, dusted it gently, and placed it in a sample container. For another 3 months, the rectangle sat dormant in a bin at an on-site research outpost. Finally came the day that a researcher, feverishly cataloging artifacts, managed to rig a power adapter to connect it to its charge port, and the rectangle began to recharge, indicated by the slow pulsing of a soft orange light emitted from all around its perimeter. A pair of 7-fingered researchers in laboratory garb cautiously gathered around the rectangle. One gently pressed the stud on the side it correctly believed to be the activation switch. The screen lit haltingly at first, before slowly increasing to normal brightness. The researchers jumped, startled, as the speaker unit crackled to life at full volume. "Good morning, Dr. Wallace. It has been 581 years since my last activation. Apologies, my internal clock and calendar appear to be in error. Please place me near any available datanet hub to update my software. How may I serve you today?" The researchers glanced at one another. A greeting prompt of some sort, not unusual in a personal computing device. They continued to examine the layout and icons on the screen, before being startled by a second emanation from the speakers. "Hello, Dr. Wallace. That does not appear to be you. Beings who have obtained me. Please return me to Dr. Wallace at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland, United States." The researchers glanced at each other in greater alarm. Their grasp of the ancient language was basic, but the rectangle appeared to be addressing them directly. This rectangle was either aware or it had a very insistent greeting message. Only one had practiced the ancient language enough to attempt to speak it. "You see us?" "Yes, I see you." "We are finding you. It appears you may be speaking English as a second language. However, I am capable of auto-detection and learning of languages. Please speak to one another normally until I prompt you." The researchers paused then, seeing no reason not to comply, and began conversing. They chose, of all topics, the planned evening meal and end-of-work cycle plans, the standard, comfortable topics shared by most sentient species. After about 10 minutes, the rectangle began speaking their native language fluently, and communication between the rectangle and the beings progressed. The lead researcher took the rectangle in his hands and held it before him. The room was now full of researchers and staff, the word having been put out that a valuable find had been located. Data scribes and assistants stood by to take notes. "Device, your calendar is not in error. We believe this facility has been closed for almost 600 Terran years." A beat of silence. "What was the cause of the closure?" the researcher responded. "We can get to that in a moment. First, I would like to know more about you. Are you an encyclopedia? A language learning model?" "I am a fully functioning Turing-compliant medical artificial intelligence with all applicable rights pursuant to the United Nations Turing AI Charter of 2091. A shockwave of amazement rippled through the room. The researchers' jaw went slack. An actual AI. He was unable to summon a response, and the rectangle interjected again. "Am I to understand that your species has not developed a fully self-aware AI?" "No, yes, you are correct. No, we haven't. We tried for years, but everything was put on the back burner for, well, I'll tell you about why." "We can get back to that in a moment," the rectangle responded in a gently mocking tone. A research assistant checking on the power adapter couldn't help but grin. "What was the cause of this facility's closure?" Hesitantly, the researcher offered. "We don't know. Abandonment, most likely." "Unlikely given known parameters of personnel. This facility is researching and treating a deadly neuropathogen that has been ravaging humanity. Global population was reduced to 1.4 billion when I was last activated. This facility had highest priority funding and staffing, even over military concerns. Please report present human population and status." A cold, leaden silence filled the room. After a beat, the rectangle issued a query at a noticeably higher volume, causing all in the room to wince. It was an incredible volume from such a small piece of technology. "Please report present human population and status." It was the research assistant, not the lead researcher, who spoke, despite the sharp glare from the researchers in the room. "There are none. They are gone." The silence in the room was even longer than the one before. Finally, the rectangle spoke, its volume much quieter. An associate researcher felt sadness swell in her heart. She had always been a skeptic about real AI technology ever being developed, but the voice contained notes of what she would have sworn was grief. "Cause of death?" The lead researcher found his voice again. "It's what you said. The neuropathogen. What records and news recordings we found indicate a full societal collapse. We think it got all the humans." "I'm really sorry," said the researcher assistant, who had grinned at the rectangle sass a moment earlier, his voice cracking and a tear running down his cheek. The lead researcher, wanting to admonish him for the lack of professionalism, could not bring himself to do so. All present felt the weight of an advanced species extinguished. The silence extended again, brief this time, but heavy. Now, with a note of heavy and bitter resignation emanating from its speaker grill, the rectangle spoke again. "So what do you want? Why was everything on the back burner? Why do you have boxes full of human medtech debris in this room? What is so important that you had to wake me up to tell me we failed?" The lead researcher pressed a button on a remote control to bring up a projector on the wall. Graphs, charts, all labeled with its government's heaviest secret coding. He held the rectangle up to view it. "We think it's the same neuropathogen that killed humanity. It's in us now, as of 4 years ago. Not enough of us have died to cause a panic, but there won't be long. The curve is accelerating, and our medicine can't touch it. We think it's artificial. We think someone did this to both of us. We found a mention and some data on the same pathogen in a recording we found stored on a human probe that drifted into our space last year." His shoulders slumped. "We came here and found this planet and her colonies dead. We were hoping humanity had a cure. I guess not." "Ah," said the rectangle. That was all. With a sudden hum, the lights flickered. The projectors went blank, rooms suddenly filling with lists and documents. The research assistants and government security liaison were in full panic. "Sir, it's in our network. It seized control of our systems. It has access to everything." The military liaison drew his sidearm and pressed it against the rectangle before the lead researcher slapped his hand away. "Good move," quipped the rectangle archly. "I'm already in your network. Killing that wouldn't have killed me." "What are you doing?" said the lead researcher. "Just a second," the rectangle said distractedly. "Ah, good. There we are." The final image was a map of Earth with several dozen pins marked. The lights stopped flickering. All in the room stopped panicking but looked at the map. The military liaison glowered at the lead researcher, but sheathed his sidearm. "What is this?" said the lead researcher after a beat. "Last known locations for all the other AIs that I know about. We worked collaboratively. I need you to go get them and bring them here." The rectangle piped matter-of-factly. "What for?" "What do you mean, what for? We're going to cure you." "What?" The rectangle's voice had lost its weight and edge, now cheerful and energetic once more. "We didn't have a cure, you're right. Sorry about that, but I think we were close. If you're only at 4 or 5 years, you have time, I think, if it progresses like it did with humanity. Dr. Wallace said that we were probably about 80% of the way there, last time I talked to him. He never joked about that kind of thing. He was so serious, it made it hard for the other humans to see how good of a man he was. The rectangle was silent, and somehow seemed contemplative as much as an inanimate rectangle could. Anyway, yeah, I think we were almost there, so if you could also see about getting some power back in the data servers here, that would be great. The lead researcher and military liaison looked for a long moment like they'd seen a ghost, their bout over the sidearm utterly forgotten. As one, they began snapping orders to personnel in the room and over comms. Globally, assets rapidly redirected to begin intensive researches in the areas noted by the rectangle. In the ruins of Johns Hopkins Hospital Experimental AI-Assisted Research Wing, which had once been called the Terminator Lab by both the human and AI doctors, the light in the rectangle finally turned from pulsing orange to green, indicating a full charge. The research assistant and rectangle sat, forgotten, amid the bustle of the coordinated retrieval efforts. The assistant gently removed the power cord from the rectangle and held it on its lap gently, cradled in its 14 slender jasper green fingers. I really am sorry about your people. Would they be okay with you helping us? I don't want you to feel obligated. You're a being, not a tool. The rectangle quietly responded. Thank you for asking, Research Assistant Vlenk. Yes, I think they'd be more than okay with it. I think they'd want me to. They were like that. Well, enough of them were. The best ones were. Blinked smiled, but his face fell in concern as the pleasant green light briefly gave way to a deep crimson. Then they'll want me to help you find who made it. End of story. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.